All right, what's going on, fellas? This your boy Abdel on Del Tells. Hey, man, today was a great night for UFC 307. We got to talk about this real quick because there were some good fights that I definitely want to point out here for sure. So, Joaquin Buckley today, which was the main event in the prelims, he fought Wonder Boy today. He really went out there and kind of did his thing. He tried to control the fight the best way he could. Wonder Boy is very slick, man. He can move around in so many different ways. He can beat you in so many different ways. And then that karate style, standing sideways, is very dangerous. You never really know what direction he's going to come from or anything. You don't know where those kicks are going to come from because if you're in the middle of your swing or kick or something like that, it's going to catch you off guard. But he found a way to use his power effectively. He was able to control the fight, especially in the third round when he was able to get that knockdown to get the TKO. Man, he did a great job. I got to give him a thumbs up for that one and definitely a shout out because Joaquin Buckley came out and did his thing. Wonder Boy definitely looked a little bit slower today. He still looked like himself, but maybe Father Time is just getting to him. I don't really know what the reasoning for that is, but that's something we'll definitely have to look into another time for sure. But next, we got to move over to Kevin Holland, man. Kevin Holland is still Kevin Holland, but we got to be honest. He's losing fights for the weirdest reasons out there. Sometimes he's just trying to have too much fun to the point where he gives up on winning and he ends up losing. This time around, it was just something a little bit different. One of his ribs actually got, pulled out of place. And I know that's very painful. You've seen him screaming very painfully on the ground. What's weird to me about Kevin Holland is, man, this is a gifted athlete in every meaning of the word. The guy can fight. The guy is agile. He can move. He can do it all. He's willing to stand up and trade with anyone. But sometimes he just does certain things that causes him fights, and I'm not exactly sure the reason why. Like, when he sits back and he thinks about so many of these fights that he could have won, which I believe is why the UFC keeps him around. Because they know this guy can do it, and they know he's willing to fight anybody on any given day. I just don't know what's stopping him from just being consistent with that and actually winning. I don't know. Maybe he's having too much fun to the point where he has to get serious, but does him fighting serious, does that mean he's still the same fighter? We don't know. We don't know that for certain, so that's something we'll definitely have to look into. Now we start going into the main event. This is where Kayla Harrison is finally getting some serious challenges in her MMA career. In this fight, this is the first time I can honestly say I've ever seen her bloodied up in a fight. I believe she also stated that this is the first time she actually bled in a fight. In all honesty, seeing her at 135 makes me miss Amanda Nunes because, boy, I wish that woman was around. I think that's the big challenge to put away Kayla Harrison, maybe. I don't know for sure. I'm pretty sure they've trained together. They know each other very well. I don't know what would happen, but I'm just saying, as an MMA fan, I would love to see that Amanda Nunes Kayla Harrison fight. And I know it's been asked for a long time, but Kayla Harrison just wasn't in the UFC at that time. But some of the other good fights I will definitely go over. Um, let's go over to Jose Aldo and Mario Bautista because Jose Aldo is showing even at 38 years old, this guy can still do it, man. I don't know how he does it. Now, once again, Father Time is definitely hitting him as well because Mario Bautista's gas tank is just limitless, it seems like. That guy can just recharge up and come right back and do whatever he wants to do. He can fight at a fast pace for 5 rounds. In this case, it was only a 3 round fight, but Mario Bautista definitely looked really well. And although Jose Aldo's age is showing, he's still a threat, man. He's still got those heavy hands. He's a big guy for 135 physically. You could definitely tell the difference between the size discrepancy between him and Mario Bautista. But Bautista, with that gas tank, the willingness to go into danger just to land his own punches and get Jose Aldo into some dangerous positions, was definitely enough to show that he still got what it takes to win. So I would say Mario Bautista was definitely the more effective fighter in this one. He was definitely more active. I'm not shocked that they gave him the split decision at all. Jose Aldo did a great job. All credit to him. He's a legend of the game. We'll always love him, man. It is what it is. It's just part of the game. Next, we move over to Juliana Pena and Raquel Pennington. Both of these girls came out saying a lot before the fight, and we all knew that a lot would be said between the two. But, you know, they came out, they showed a lot of respect to each other, which was actually quite interesting to see because they almost looked timid. They almost looked like nobody wanted to make a mistake. Nobody wanted to advance or anything. It was more of be as safe as possible and don't make the first mistake. Pena definitely, after the first round, started taking Raquel Pennington to the ground because I believe that had to be the game plan after a while. She is a good wrestler. Do not get me wrong. She definitely is. And that could have always been part of the game plan. But at the same time, we also know that she didn't do too much on the ground to Raquel. Yeah, she had Raquel in a position where she could have choked her. The choke did not work. But that was about all she did for 2 rounds on the ground, to be completely honest. In the 4th round, Raquel Pennington came out with that big head kick, and that actually started changing the fight around a little bit. So for me in the first round, you know what? I'll come back to that. I'll come back to who I gave the rounds to because I got a couple more things I want to say about this fight. But Raquel came out with that big head kick in the 4th round, and for me, that's when everything started to change in this fight. It was definitely very even in the stand-up game because, once again, they showed a lot of respect to each other. However, it definitely looks like going into round 5, I had it 2-2. Raquel is definitely the one landing the bigger significant strikes, and she's also landed the strikes that dropped Pena twice. She could have finished the fight, but she decided to go for a guillotine that pretty much just honestly wasted her time. She did not need that guillotine attempt at all. She should have stood back on the feet and actually finished the fight. I think that would have been the best decision in that case. But, when you're in the moment and adrenaline is pumping, it is what it is. But Pena was definitely hurt quite a bit in this fight. I mean, more than twice for sure. She was dropped twice, but she was rocked quite a few times in this fight. So the tides definitely did turn around for me. I thought the ground control was just not enough to swing the vote over to Pena's way. For me personally, after the 5th round, I definitely thought, I was like, okay, this is it. Raquel definitely won. She has the most significant strikes. Pena didn't do too much on the ground other than the one choke attempt. Other than that, it was just ground control, but without much effectiveness. So I was like, all right, I got to give round 1 to Pena. 2 and 3. No, sorry, that's wrong. Round 1 to Raquel Pennington. 2 and 3 to Pena. 4 to Raquel. And 5 I gave to Raquel myself. But somehow the judges gave this fight over to Pena. I don't know if we watched the same fight as the judges. I'm pretty sure Dana White is going to talk about this in the post-fight interview, and I'm definitely going to watch that to see what he says because I thought that was actually quite an interesting decision because I definitely had Raquel winning that fight. There was no way to me that Pena won that fight, but once again, maybe we're just watching a different fight. I don't know. But I definitely don't agree with them, with the judges in this one. But then again, I'm not a judge. So, you also have to tip your hat off to those judges. They definitely have a hard job to do. But a lot of the times the judges do get it wrong. And when you watch that fight back, you're like, there's no way these judges gave that fight away to this person. But that's exactly what happened. I think Pennington definitely got screwed on this one. And then we go to the main event. Now, this fight, I expected a lot, and I think everybody got what they were expecting. Everybody got their money's worth who watched it on pay-per-view or were either at the stadium in Utah. This was a fun fight. Alex Pereira and Khalil Roundtree. I was actually curious to see who would shoot for the legs first. And in this fight, nobody shot for the legs, which was actually quite interesting to see. Khalil was definitely going to have to trust himself in this fight. He had to know he was going to take a lot of damage, and he had to be willing to fight through the damage. It was more of a willpower type of thing that he had to overcome, and that's not easy because he did take a lot of damage in this fight. But if he, at any point in this fight, to me, before it started, if he showed any sort of weakness, that would be the end of the fight. And if you watched it, then you know exactly what happened. That pretty much exactly is what happened. So the leg kicks, we're going to count a lot, but because Khalil Roundtree definitely stands southpaw and not orthodox, and makes those kicks a little bit harder for Poatan to land. And because of that, Poatan had to kind of telegraph that front kick to the point where at certain parts of the fight, Khalil Roundtree could actually figure out where those kicks were coming from and how to avoid them. And that started becoming very apparent. Now, he still didn't win the fight, so, you know, but it counted for a lot because trust me, once those calves go to sleep, you're not moving around as much. You're not able to put weight on that leg. You can't swing with your full power. There's a lot that changes inside the game. So, at one point, I think the best hits that were landing for Khalil Roundtree was definitely the overhand right. Those were definitely significant, and every time Poatan got hit with those, he did not like it. Alex Pereira would back up and look back up like, hey, man, you know what? I'm going to get that hit back. I'm not really sure why that landed so clean, but I want that hit back. And sometimes I can get Alex in a little bit of trouble because Alex can be touched. He can be knocked out. He is human, but to do it is still not easy because you still have to hit him, So Khalil, the one thing that I was afraid of was the altitude. He was making a lot of quick dash movements, man, and he has all that muscle on his body. All of that is very taxing on the energy in the gas tank, so he has to use a lot of movement, and that movement costs a lot of energy. His recovery, the high altitude, you're not breathing the same. All of that definitely played a big role in this game. And Alex was just so tall, and he just was able to do a good job at keeping him away at distance and just being a way to get out of those most dangerous punches that Khalil was throwing, which I thought that was definitely a big key in this fight as well. Alex played that very strategically and very well. So in the second round, Khalil gets a hit that drops Poatan, and maybe with about a minute and 20 seconds left into that round, but I started noticing in the second round, Khalil is moving backwards quite a lot, man. That's really taxing on the body. It's really hard to do that consistently. You get tired very quick. And I think that's when Alex just started pouring on all the pressure. You start to see the high kick come in with 5 seconds left in the second round. I think Alex started to notice that Khalil was getting tired and it was time to put on all the pressure. Alex was definitely down 2-0 at that point, but I don't think he was actually ever in danger of losing the fight. And I think he was still very confident that he could win the fight. I'm not sure why in the second round, Khalil definitely went to kicking the body, and Alex did not like that. He reacted very weird in the second round. He did not like that. He was probably sitting there going, okay, I can't take many more of these, so I better get this guy out of here before those get me in trouble. But Khalil never went back to those body kicks, and I don't know why. What ended up actually happening was Alex started throwing his T kicks and body kicks in the third round, and then the calf kicks in the third round definitely started making a big difference in that fight. And that's kind of where you have to pay very close attention to these fighters, because now Alex is starting to control the way the fight is going, and Khalil is fatigued. All that muscle, like I said, it costs a lot of energy to the body, and now Alex is just taking over, And Alex, for some reason, in the first 2 rounds, I was literally sitting there debating with myself, like, it almost seems like Alex just wants to either tire Khalil out. Maybe they did some video study on Khalil Roundtree and realized that he starts to fade away after the second or third round or something like that, because it seemed like he didn't want to do too much the first 2 rounds. But from round 3 on, he was just on it, man. So there's definitely some film study that those guys did to find out something. And, even in the end, Alex did mention that Khalil Roundtree is known for tapering off after the second or third round. So that was kind of the game plan, was to tire him out. And that's kind of the understanding that I got even watching the fight myself. So we definitely see that Khalil was fading later on in the fight. Towards the third round, Alex, like I said, he's definitely taken over the fight at this point. The leg kicks are working. The T kicks are working. The head kicks are becoming dangerous. Khalil started showing those mistakes that people make when they start to get tired. He started throwing wild and just wide punches. Far too wide, actually, to be honest. They're too wide to be, anything that you trained in the gym. Those are just mistakes from being fatigued. You know, round three definitely goes to Alex. There's no question. So those T kicks to the body definitely started paying dividends, and it started breaking down Khalil Roundtree, especially in the fourth round. Now all the damage is starting to add up. Khalil Roundtree's face is busted up. You know, his eye almost looked like something was hanging, but it was more, and it was the right eye, but it was more of the cut that caused all the damage that made it look like something else was hanging there. So once everything started to add up and those T kicks are adding up, weakening the body and everything, Alex goes after him on the cage. Couple of body shots later, Khalil Roundtree folds on the ground. You know, around around the fourth round, a few minutes in is when Khalil Roundtree, he was just far too hurt, took too much damage. Those body shots, the T kicks and everything just added up in the wrong way. So there was definitely no way for him to recover from that. But what did we learn from this? Khalil Roundtree is definitely still a threat, man. And I think once he figures out a way to get more stamina later on, but like I said, he has so much muscle on his body. He has to find a way to either pace the fight because he's so aggressive in the way he approaches the fight, or he has to get more stamina. Those are the main two things that I would say for him. But he's such a great fighter, man, such a good stand-up guy. You know, even in the end, he was thanking the crowd for being there. And even with all of his injuries, he's like, man, I can't wait to fight in Utah again. And he's talking about training in the altitude. So there's definitely a lot that we learned from this fight. But what the other thing we learned is that Alex Pereira is just on another level when it comes to striking. And still the only person that can stand with him truly in the UFC when it comes to striking is still Israel Adesanya, the last style bender. It is what it is. He's the one that can truly stand up with him with that kickboxing style. He knows exactly how to be against Alex, whether it's in orthodox or in southpaw. He knows how to hit him. He knows how to get to him. He knows how to close the distance. And he also knows how to use distance to keep him away when he has to. He's even knocked him out. So there's definitely a lot that Israel definitely tells some of these fighters that these fighters cannot implement directly because they don't have those kickboxing skills like Israel. And they don't know Alex the way Israel knows Alex, especially because those guys fought 4 times. But, you know, definitely a great fight, definitely a great pay-per-view. I can't wait for the next one because we do get to see Max Holloway come in with Alex Topuria at UFC 308 on October 26th. So I can't wait for that, man. There's going to be a lot of great fights on that card also. Man, for you UFC fans, definitely leave a couple comments in here, man. Let's see what's going on. Let's keep this conversation going. And guys, definitely like and subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and peace out, y'all.